Hi friends, good day. Today I am starting a new topic, that is financial statement of banking companies. Today I am starting new chapter called as financial statements of banking companies. Financial statements of banking companies. The first unit is I am trying to at the outset let me explain. You're having 6 units in your material. I say material. A brief view I want to give you so that there will not be any confusion. Otherwise, you will feel that lot of syllabus is there. So that is why, to simplify it, what I am doing here, I'm giving brief idea of how many units you are having, so that you will be having a glance of the syllabus of banking companies. Some relevant provisions. Some relevant provisions of the Banking Regulation Act. Of the Banking Regulations Act. This is your Unit 1. Unit 2 is about books of accounts, returns, and form of balance sheet and P&L account. This is what is about. What are the books of account that they maintain? This is about this is about theoretical part. This is also more or less how bank maintains accounts and format. I think these two parts is just overall picture about the financial statements of banking companies. This is ground, because we are preparing ground for going for working out the problems. These two are theoretical, theory oriented things. Okay, no need to worry about these two chapters, right? Next, Unit 3 is capital adequacy norms. Capital adequacy norms. From this, you can expect a short question. Capital adequacy ratio, etc. I think this is important from problems point of view. Okay. Capital adequacy norms, generally you can expect a short question. You can expect problems topic. This is problem part. Next, Unit 4 is about income recognition. This is also problem part. Short questions you can expect. Income recognition, comma, classification of assets and provisions. This is also important. Short questions you can expect, or 8 marks questions surprisingly you can expect, but this also you can do it. Unit 4 and Unit 5 is about, this is also problems part, and some special transactions. For you it is not a special, because when it is a special, when you're doing for the first time, but I think this is a routine one. I think you all are aware. Bills of exchange, discounting of a bills with the banker. When you're discounting a bill with the banker, it is going to be an income for him. How he will be recording it, and collections of bill, acceptance of bills, etc. You'll be learning in this particular chapter, this also we can expect problems. This is also important. And finally, unit 6, you can expect either 8 marks question, 10 marks question. If it is both P&L and balance sheet comprehensive question, you can expect this is about same problems part, uh, preparation of preparation of financial statements of banks. That is, you'll be having, this is problems oriented one. Final account, simply final accounts of banks. So 2 units are theory oriented, 4 units are problems oriented. Okay, so today's class, first let me begin with some relevant provisions of the Banking Regulation Act. Okay, before that, overall picture about the bank has been given here. Chapter overview. That is, what is chapter overview? Banking companies. I told you, no? Financial statements of banking companies. Clear to all of you? Just you remember this. Capital adequacy norms, income recognition, classification of assets and provisions, some special transaction. What I have done is to have a more clarity. The problems part, what I have done is that I have divided into 7 models. That also let me give you, so that before I go to the theory part, you'll be having clarity of thought. Problems part. Model 1, we'll be talking about calculation of interest on performing assets and non-performing assets. And then I'm not going the order with order that I've given, fourth, third unit, fourth unit, fifth unit, sixth unit. No, just these from simplicity and from significance, from examination point of view, I've just have divided according to my convenience for you to explain it. Okay, so then finally at the time of doing the problem, from which unit you are having this particular model, calculation of interest on performing assets and non performing assets. Okay, this is one model that we'll be working out later on. Then model 2 is about calculation. You can note down somewhere, calculation of provisions on advances to be made in P&L account. Okay, this is model 2. Then model 3 is about, and this is a big one actually, calculation of provisions on advances to be made in P&L account. First you should know what is advances, etc., that we discuss later on. Just overall picture I'm giving you in the beginning, so that you'll be having some confidence on this. Calculation of provision on advances guaranteed by DICGC, ECGC. Here just for information, DICGC is nothing but deposit insurance credit guarantee corporation. Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. This is DICGC. Then ECGC is nothing but Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. We'll discuss about. See, advances given by the bank with guarantee, advances given by bank without guarantee. I think this is model 2 and model 3 we discuss later on. This is model 3 problem. Then model 4, coming to model 4. Just a minute. This is what I told you, special transactions, no? Model 4, what I'll be doing is that calculation of rebate on bills discounted. Calculation of rebate on bills discounted. Like discount on when we have seen in bills of exchange, drawer can discount the bill with the banker, and what is the treatment of the rebate on bills discounted. Okay, so like you learned the entries in the books of trader, bank account data, discount account data to bills receivable, in the books of bank, bills discounted account data to customer account to discount account. I think what is the treatment, how you will be working out, that you will be learning in model 4. Model 5 is bills for collection. Bills for collection or collection of bills. Okay, now this is about model 5 problems, right? Then next one, model 6. Acceptances and endorsement. Acceptances and endorsement. This is model 6. Okay, acceptances and endorsement. This is model 6. Model 6. Then model 7 is about calculation of risk adjusted and risk weighted calculation of risk adjusted and risk weighted assets and capital adequacy ratio. Capital adequacy ratio. These things, what is capital adequacy ratio and tier 1 capital, tier 2 capital, these all are things we'll be learning there. So this is very important one. This is calculation of risk adjusted and risk weighted assets and capital adequacy ratio. I've told you right from the beginning, this topic is about your memory. It is all about your memory, my dear friend. This topic is about memory. Okay. And then finally, we can go to final account. That's it. So, how many models I have told you here total? 7 models I have explained to all of you. After the 7th model, last one is model 8 is about your final accounts. Sometimes final accounts may consist 1 or 2 parts of this. So that is the reason why we'll be learning in a detailed manner that how to go for calculation of or working out of the problems under various models. Okay, my dear friends. So now, just a minute. So model 1, calculation of interest on performing and non-performing assets. Model 2, calculation of provisions on advances to be made in profit and loss account. Calculation of provisions on advances guaranteed by DICGC, DIC Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. And if there is any failure on the part of the party which has taken that, and these people will be giving guarantee, these things will be discussing later on. Similarly, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, what guarantee to the extent, what amount percentage they have given guarantee, these things will be discussing. Calculation of rebate on bills discounted, bills for collection, acceptance, endorsement, calculation of risk adjusted and risk weighted assets and capital adequacy ratio. Model 8 is final account. So I have divided entire chapter into 8 units. My problems explanation also will be based on this only. Clear to all of you? So today we had the initial discussion of the overall chapter view. Financial statements of banking companies consisting of 6 units. First 2 is theory oriented. Of course, this is format. And fourth unit 3, capital adequacy norms. I told you last model 7th, last but one. Capital adequacy norms, risk weighted, adjusted, all those things. And unit for income recognition, classification of assets and provision. Income recognition is nothing but calculation of interest on performing assets and non-performing assets. And then some special transactions. Some special transactions is nothing but here I have told you already, like bills of exchange, etc. Rebate on bills discounted. So this entire chapter has been divided into 8 models, 6 units, 8 models from the examination point of view. Now let me start this chapter overview. Banking companies chapter overview. I think most of you are aware that banks are vital to the property and well-being of any society or country. Banks enable a society to create the platform for the satisfaction of wants of its people, and by managing and maintaining the flow of money to carry off transactions. So I think you all are aware of that, how the banks enable society to create a platform for the satisfaction of want of its people by managing and maintaining the flow of money. Now, if bank is, like we all are aware that if suppose a bank, sometimes we'll be getting a WhatsApp message, banks are having 3 to 4 continuous holidays, and how difficult it is for us to get the money from the bank and making the payment. Thanks due to the initiation of technology. I think you all must be thankful to 2 banks. One is we used to have a bank called as Global Trust Bank. Is the brainchild of the founder of Vasavi Banks, I think, if I'm not wrong, Ramesh Gelli something. I've forgotten his name long back. And he has come out from Vasavi Bank and he started a bank called as Global Trust Bank. Now that bank has been taken by Overseas Bank, I think, long back. They started actually using the technology, like you need not, like whenever you want to withdraw money, you used to go to bank and your signature has been scanned. Once upon a time, the cards used to be there. Suppose I want to withdraw money, my specific signature will be there in the sheets maintained by the banker, and they used to verify my signature. and with that sheet, which is specimen signature, which I given at the time of opening of an account. And it's a big task again. A special person has to be maintained, and accounts, all accounts number, and verifying, time wasting time. We have to withdraw money, you have to stay there for half an hour, 1 hour, and the bank timings are different, our timings are different. They used to have banking hours from 10 to 1, or sometimes 10 to 4, and whereas my office timings are the the student timings are different. So Sunday is a holiday, Saturday is a holiday, so like that, very difficult. So few people used to go there. And with this ICICI Bank and the Global Trust Bank, then automation, now signature has been scanned within seconds on in front of system. When you give check, they type the account number, they verify, and check is being cleared. Very simple. So the lot of changes have brought, and then ATM has come, and lot of changes now. Even if a bank is holiday, you can go to the bank, and to deposit the bank checks also used to go to the banks, and you have to fill the form, and you have to remittance coupon you have to fill, that is pay in slip, and that has to be given 3 days. Now no need, even you can go and on backside of the check, if you write your name without any count, without any remittance coupon, also the phone number and your account number, and if you drop in the check box, automatically it will be there sending for clearance. Lot of changes have taken place, and recently I think you all are Google Pay, Paytm. So lot of option, lot of changes have taken place. So that is why we say banks are vital to the prosperity and well-being of any society of our country. Banks enable a society to create the platform for the satisfaction of want of its people by managing and maintaining the flow of money to carry out transactions. For smoothly meeting cash payment requirement, banks have to maintain a cash reserve ratio and statutory liquidity ratio. We discuss what is cash reserve ratio, what is statutory liquidity ratio later on. Similarly, we have discussed in one of the chapter capital adequacy. Capital adequacy norms given in the unit as per existing Basel II norms. Basel II norms, it is being popularly called as Basel II norms. The RBI requires banks to maintain minimum capital risk adequacy ratio at prescribed rate on an ongoing basis on the assets of the bank, whether the assets, which assets means on advances given by the bank, amount used due from the customers who to whom the bank have advanced, and what is the risk associated with that. I think these things is we'll be discussing, very interesting. You should enjoy this chapter, my dear friends. No need to worry about it. It is unlike we normally do final account. Final accounts, anybody you can easily do it, but few things you need to understand, few things, and we can continue. So these things we'll be learning in the coming classes. The capital adequacy norms is completed now. The capital is divided to tiers according to the characteristics, qualities of each qualifying instrument. Tier 1 capital consists mainly of share capital, disclosed reserves, and its bank's highest quality capital because it is fully available to cover the losses. So Tier 1, they have divided into, according to Basel II norms, they have divided the capital structure into two tiers. One tier is capital consists mainly of share capital and disclosed reserves, and its bank's highest quality capital because it is fully available to cover losses. Tier 2 capital, on the other hand, consists of certain reserves and certain types of subordinated debt. We discuss about what is subordinated debt later on. Okay. Now banks have to classify their advances into two broad groups: performing assets, non-performing assets. This classification is done based on the principle laid down by RBI in income recognition of assets classification, is called as IRAC norms. We discussed that also. And then performing assets are also called as standard assets. The non-performing assets is popularly known as NPA, is again classified into three groups, and they are: one, substandard asset; second, doubtful assets; and third one, loss assets. Now the banks have to maintain provisioning for non-performing assets at the prescribed rates. A banking company, you all are aware that, most of you are aware of that. What is happening now? People are leaving the country after taking the loans, the big wigs, and I think you know that so-called big giants, I can say, left the country, not making the payment, and banks almost, most of the, some of the banks, they have collapsed actually by lending the money they cannot get back from to the people or to the companies to whom they have advanced. I think your follow-up action is very, very important now. Banks have taken it very seriously. Banks are after the customers who have taken loan, and then, and if there is any doubt, and if a particular loan is or the interest which is due for more than 90 days, it is alarming for the bank. And in such case, if it is, once it is NPA, what happened, chance of recovery will be very less. Okay, that is why there's a proposal has come from the RBI that bad banks. Okay, so I think there's a lot of changes you see in coming days also. We have seen biggest amalgamation of the banks recently. So then, while preparing financial statements, banks have to, and also, sorry, one more thing, the banks have to maintain provision for non-performing assets prescribed it. A banking company also performs discounting of bills, collection of bills, and acceptance on behalf of the customers. That will be, like I told you, special transaction chapter will be discussing on that. And this is income recognition, we know we got separate chapter for that. While preparing financial statement, bank have to follow various guidelines, directions given by RBI and government of India governing the financial statement. So this is what I told. Chapter has been divided 6 units for the purpose of convenience in the understanding of the topic. So today's class, my emphasis is first I want to finish off the unit 1. So some relevant provisions of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. What is the learning objective? Understand the legal definition of banking, the composition of management team of a bank, and types of bank operating in India. Learn the conditions to be fulfilled for the obtaining a license for banking activities. Learn the provisions relating capital reserve, liquidity norms, capital reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio, reserve fund, and dividend payment. Try to relate such provisions with the financial information obtained from any banking companies. Okay, so I think I need not tell you much about what is meaning of a banking company, and is this already I told you, a platform for the satisfaction of wants for the people by managing, maintaining the flow of money to carry out transaction. So this is important. The role of banks may be likened to the heart of in a human being. The role of banks may be likened to the heart of in a human being, circulating and managing money through the economy, thereby playing a crucial role for its good health. I'll tell you, we have seen a number of times we have discussed in demonetization period that has taken place, I think in 2016 December, the circulation of the problem. So once the circulation was affected, even recently due to last year, there was due to this COVID-19, we had some issues of circulation of money. Even before this, the present situation, even the finance minister has said for government employees they want to pump a lot of money into the circulation, and so they said, okay, you can go for encashment of LTC for government employees, of course. So many things, like they want the cash to be circulated. Circulation is a very important thing. See, if the money is circulated, it changes hands. What happened, the activity, it's a kind of a system, that is into the practice, and through which people can spend something. When people spend, even suppose I'm earning, if I'm not spending, and the reason for black money we talk about is that people earn but they are not spending, they are not showing in the books of accounts. If you keep that money with you, what happens, circulation of the money is being blocked. That was one of the reason for and also, is there any what is called as fake currency, and to cross check that, the government has initiated, went for demonetization. What is the actual currency which is in circulation, that for that calculation. I'm not going to talk about pros and cons of that particular thing, but what I wish to tell you is that circulation is the key. That is why the role of banks may be likened to the heart in a human being, circulating and managing money through the economy, thereby playing a crucial role for its good health. So bank in India, their activities are regulated by Banking Regulation Act 1949. Banking under Section 5B of the said Act, banking means accepting deposits of money from public for the purpose of lending or investing. Okay, accepting deposits of money from public for the purpose of lending or investing. These deposits are repayable on demand or otherwise, and can be withdrawn by check, draft, or otherwise. Now let us look at what is banking company. Any bank which transacts the business as stated in section 5 subsection B of the act in India is called banking company. However, merely accepting public deposit by a company for financing its own business shall not make it a bank. Merely accepting public deposit by a company for financing its own business, collecting deposit for its own business, shall not make it a bank. Accepting the deposits and lending to the people. So it may be mentioned that the Banking Regulation Act 1949 is not applicable to a primary agriculture society, a cooperative society, a cooperative land mortgage bank, and any other cooperative society. So it may be mentioned that Banking Regulation Act is not applicable for these things. Types of bank. There are two main categories of commercial banks in India: scheduled commercial banks, scheduled cooperative banks. Scheduled commercial banks are again divided to five types of scheduled cooperative banks, and the scheduled corporate banks into two. So scheduled commercial banks have been divided into five types, scheduled cooperative banks into two, as given in the following chart. You can look at that. Scheduled commercial banks. In scheduled commercial banks, we are having national banks. Example, Bank of Baroda, State Bank of India, they have given. I think the State Bank of India went for biggest merger. All state banks have become State Bank of India, no? State Bank of Hyderabad, State Bank of Mysore. So all these banks have been merged into State Bank of India. Biggest merger has taken place. Then development banks, NABARD, Exim, regional rural bank, Grameen Bank, and foreign banks like Citibank. I think there's a talk that Citibank is going to wind up their operations. Recently, couple of days back, we have seen in the news, Citibank don't want to carry on their activities in India. Maybe somebody is going to buy that. They are looking at the people who want to buy actually Kotak Mahindra. I think this is what the newspaper we have seen, that Citibank and Standard Chartered Bank, BNP Paribas, they all are comes under foreign banks. Private sector banks, we are having two major banks, ICICI and Axis. Okay, so this is, they all comes under scheduled commercial banks. Scheduled cooperative bank, scheduled state cooperative bank, scheduled urban cooperative banks. Scheduled banks in India constitute those banks which have been included in the second schedule of Reserve Bank of India 1934. After May 1997, there are no non-scheduled commercial banks existing in India. However, there are small tiny non-scheduled urban cooperative banks, also known as Nidhi and schedule and Nidhi and schedule out of the schedule of the country. I think this typing mistake. I think just a minute. Nidhi in some parts of, I think this is something is missing. Banks are also known as Nidhi. Okay. Which is there in some parts of the country. There's some typing mistake. I can't write on this. So just you can ignore it. It's not an issue at all. Okay. So let me tell you. However, there are small to tiny non-scheduled urban cooperative banks, also known as Nidhi, in some parts of the country. That is what actually this has been not properly typed. I think there's a typing mistake. The banks included in the schedule list should fulfill the following two conditions. The paid up capital and reserves aggregated should not be less than 5 lakhs. Any activity of the bank will not adversely affect the interest of the deposits. The Reserve Bank includes a bank in the schedule if it is fulfilled certain other conditions also. Okay. The RBI as a central bank of the banks of last resort, that is when other commercial banks are in trouble, who is going to help? RBI is going to helps them out. The services provided by RBI to scheduled commercial banks include the following: purchase, sale, and rediscounting of certain bills of exchange or promissory notes, purchase and sale of foreign exchange, purchase, sale, and rediscounting of foreign bills of exchange, making of loans and advances to scheduled banks, maintenance of accounts of the scheduled bank in its banking deposit. I think purchase and sale, rediscounting of certain bills of exchange. We have seen promissory note bills can be discounted with the bank. Okay, discounting of the bills or promissory note, etc. Purchase and sale of foreign exchange. They purchase foreign exchange, they sell the foreign exchange. If somebody want to go abroad, you need foreign exchange, foreign currency. Somebody who is coming from foreign country want to convert that foreign currency into India. Indian currency, I think this is a service provided by the banks. Purchase, sale, and rediscounting of foreign bills. Discounting and rediscounting. This discounted bill can be rediscounted again. Foreign bills of exchange. You learned what is foreign bills of exchange in bills of exchange chapter. Making of loans and advances to scheduled banks. Giving loans and advance to scheduled banks. Maintenance of. See, we are talking about service provided by RBI. Making of loans and advance to scheduled banks. If scheduled banks are in trouble, RBI is going to pump the money in form of loans and advances. Maintenance of accounts of the scheduled bank in its banking department, in issue department. Remittance of money between different branches of scheduled banks through the offices, branches or agencies of Reserve Bank, free of cost or at nominal rates. So in interbranch transfers, and RBI is facilitating that for transfer of money from one branch to another branch. These are the services provided by RBI. Then Reserve Fund section 17. Every banking company incorporated in India is required to create a reserve fund and to transfer at least 20% of its profit to the reserve fund. Earlier it was 25%. If anybody is having the old book, please watch out. This latest is 20% of its profit to the reserve fund. The profit of the year as per P&L account prepared under section 29 is to be taken as base for the purpose of such transfer. So please this important point. Current year profit, simple words. Current year profit, 20% should be transferred to reserve fund. When I was explaining company final accounts, I told that there is no such provision for company to maintain certain percentage of statutory reserve. But when you look at the banking banking final accounts, mandatory to maintain 20% of its profits. You should keep aside for reserve fund. Okay, and prepared in section 29 P profit of the year as per the profit and loss account prepared under section 29. Current year profit 20% is to be transferred to reserve fund. Okay, and for the purpose of such transfer to reserve fund should be made before declaration of any dividend. That means before declaring the dividend, you must transfer that particular percentage. Clear to all of you? So 20% profit is before declaring any dividend. If any banking company makes any appropriations from the reserve fund or share premium account, it has to report to Reserve Bank of India the reason for such appropriation within 21 days. If any banking company makes any appropriation from the reserve fund or share premium. So you know what is appropriation? Utilizing the surplus for meeting certain expenses. It is called as appropriation. So if banking company makes any appropriation from the reserve fund or share premium account, that information has to be reported to Reserve Bank of India, and the reason for which within its appropriation within 21 days. For such appropriation within 21 days. Then restriction as to payment of dividend. Before paying any dividend, banking company has to write off completely all its capitalized expenses, including preliminary expenses, organization expenses, share selling commission, brokerage, and amount of losses incurred by tangible assets. However, a banking company may pay dividend on its shares. This is important. See what they are saying? A banking company, before you make dividend, they should write off completely all its capitalized expenses. What are the expenses that has been capitalized is to be written off. Simple words, capitalization expense means, like, there are some expenditures which is you haven't gone for writing of such expenditure. Such expenditure, the capitalized expenditure being taken as a capital expenditure, you want to write off it, and that has to be written off completely, including preliminary expenses. Okay, we talk about capitalization means is nothing but treating as an asset, and that particular part, if there is any expense, it has not been taken as a revenue item. Simple words, expired portion of an asset is an expense we talk about. We learned somewhere in capital and revenue chapter. So capitalized expenses including preliminary expenses, organization expenses, share selling commission, brokerage, any amount of losses incurred by tangible assets, all those things they must write before going for declaration of dividend. However, a banking company may pay dividend on its shares without writing off the depreciation in the value of its investment made by the bank in approved securities in any case where such depreciation has not actually been capitalized. This is important. A depreciation, I told you, as I told you, simple example, machinery is there, 1 lakh is a capitalization. Then what happened? That depreciation is to be completely written off. Depreciation completely written off, not entire 1 lakh. Just for example, I'm telling that this is different. 1 lakh 10%, 10,000 you have to write off. Suppose next year again 10,000, 10,000 has written off. This is what? Writing off capitalized expenses. Now he is saying the depreciation of the value of investment in approved securities any case where such depreciation has not actually been capitalized or accumulated for as a loss. That means whatever the investment which the investment which you have made, such investment on that you want to create a depreciation. That you can't do it. That cannot be taken into consideration before paying any dividend. Our investment value might have come down, so this is called as a loss. These things you need not adjust for paying the dividend. So for paying the dividend, only what are the things you should write off? Capitalized expenses, including preliminary expenses, organization expenses, share selling commission, brokerage, and amount of losses incurred by tangible assets. But which will not be taken into consideration? A depreciation, the value of investment approved in approved securities. Similarly, the depreciation, the value of its investment in share, debentures, or bonds other than approved securities, in any case where adequate provision for such depreciation has been made to the satisfaction of the auditor of the banking company. Already you made some provision for on these investment in shares, debentures, or bonds. So, and in such case also, you need not deduct depreciation from profit before declaring the dividend. The bad debts in any case where adequate provision for such debts has been made to the satisfaction of the auditor of the banking company. So no need to write off bad debts because you already created bad debts provision. So please remember, for other than approved securities like purchase of shares, debentures, or bonds, where you already created adequate provision, no need to write off depreciation. Okay. So it means without writing off depreciation, since a provision for the securities which has not been approved, example investment share, debentures, or bonds in a company, no need to deduct depreciation from income for calculation of dividend. Similarly, in bad debts, where adequate provision has been made and which has been satisfied by the auditor, so bad debts need not be deducted from the income for calculation of dividend. Okay. And first point is the depreciation, the value of its investment in approved securities is also not to be considered. So the depreciation on approved security, depreciation on other than approved securities, and bad debts, for these three expenses need not be considered before declaring the dividend. But what are the expenses that should be considered means capitalized expense including preliminary expenses, organization expenses, share selling commission, brokerage, etc. and losses incurred by tangible asset. These has to be written off before declaring the dividend. When problem comes, we discuss on that. Then cash reserve. For smoothly meeting cash payment requirement, banks have to maintain certain minimum ready cash balances at all times. This is called as cash reserve ratio. This is called as cash reserve ratio. The purpose of cash reserve ratio is that the reason is that it is an instrument RBI uses to control the liquidity in the system. The liquidity in the system. So that is the reason why it has been mentioned that cash reserve ratio is very, very important. So for smoothly meeting cash payment requirements, banks have to maintain certain minimum ready cash balances at all times. This is called as cash reserve ratio. Normally, we also domestically we always would like to have some cash with us. Even though instead of having the money with the bank, we always would like to have some cash with us for meeting. Like nowadays, even though we are making payment through Paytm or any online making payments, still cash is very important in Indian economy. Unless if you see 100% digitalization, still let me tell you, this cash plays still a significant role in our economy. So similarly, banks need to maintain cash, because sometimes we see, I remember long back, there's a rumor, it's a rumor actually, ICICI Bank doesn't have cash. So people standing in long queues in ATMs, long back, 10 to 15 years back. I remember early morning people have started, whoever is having ICSA, people started panic button, and they started standing in the queues to get the money back, because ATMs are not going to work and they are standing in front of banks. Then ICSA also taken as challenge, whatever the cash, they pump the money. They pump the money. Come on, it's a rumor. We got enough cash. No need to worry, there's no cash shortage. So people started and going, and 2 3 days standard, and everybody, if I'm having 40,000, I've withdrawn 40,000, and after that, what is that I'll do? So people started withdrawing. Then they realized the ICICI Bank, there's no problem. Then they started again depositing the money. So that is the reason why sometimes for meeting any um, for smoothly meeting cash payment requirement, banks have to maintain certain minimum ready cash balance at all times. This is called as cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve can be maintained by way of either a cash reserve with itself, or as balance in a current account with Reserve Bank of India, or by way of a net balance in current accounts, or in one or more of the aforesaid ways. You can have cash with you, or you can have cash with Reserve Bank of India. So every scheduled commercial bank has to maintain cash reserve ratio as per direction of the RBI issued under section 42 IA, okay, of the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. As far as my knowledge goes, it is the cash reserve ratio. It has not been given here. In the old book, it has been given. Cash reserve ratio is 4% of their net demand and time liabilities. That is from 2013. But the permissible cash reserve ratio is between 3 and 15. Okay, 3 and 15, it is better to maintain. Demand and time liabilities means the liability, like demand, on demand you need to make a payment. See, the public have deposit the money. When people have deposit the money, then whenever they, that is the reason I told you, ICICI Bank, there's a people who are having the money we have deposit with you, we want to get back the money. So that is why this cash reserve will be useful in such circumstances. So they need to always maintain 4% of the amount. It has not been mentioned there. The rates keeps on changing. Maybe that is the reason why he has taken out that. In the old book, it has been in 4%. But generally, they say that though the range permissible is between 3 and 15. But one thing, cash reserve ratio lower, the amount of money banks can lend out or investment. Higher the CRR, lower the amount of money banks can lend out. See, higher the cash reserve ratio means, if you're having 5%, 6%, 7%, 10%, I'm blocking the money. No, that money cannot be given as advance to the people who want the money. So the people who need the money, the bank can't lend it. We are maintaining cash reserve ratio. You're keeping aside the money. How can you circulate that into? So that is why recently, because of this COVID-19 pandemic, and RBI, I think they have reduced the cash reserve ratio, because they want more money to be circulated. Maybe sometimes, even though it's a risky one, but still, in some circumstances, they do. So that is why higher the CRR, lower the amount of money banks can lend out, or invest. They can lend or invest. Now, liquidity norms. Banking companies have to maintain sufficient liquid assets in the normal course of business, called statutory liquidity ratio, statutory liquidity ratio. This safeguard the interest of the depositors and prevent banks from overextending their resources. Liquidity norms have been settled and given statutory recognition. So every banking company has to maintain SLR in the form of cash, gold, and unencumbered approved securities. I repeat once again, banking companies have to maintain sufficient liquid assets in the normal course of business called as statutory liquidity ratio. Sir, what is this, sir? Here, every banking company, last line, if you look at this, every banking company has to maintain the SLR, statutory liquid ratio, in the form of cash, gold, and unencumbered approved securities. Simple words, asset or property that is free and clear of any encumbrances, such a creditor claims or liens. Simple words, unencumbered approved security means securities lodged by company with another institutions which are free. That means what are the securities I am having? Free, there is no lien on that. That means I am having the complete right on that. So when I have advanced the money and I'm having securities, that securities are without having any charge. Simple words. So the statutory liquid ratio is in the form of cash, gold, and unencumbered approved securities. If you want, you can make a note. Unencumbered approved securities means assets or property. Here, if you want, you can make a note. Assets or property that is free and clear of any encumbrances. Asset or property that is free and clear of any encumbrances, such as creditor claims or lien. Such as creditor claims or lien. Okay, the above assets are to be held at the close of the business on any day and shall be valued at price not exceeding the current market price. What are the current market price? And of course, cash is not a current market price. Gold and unencumbered approved securities. In these cases, I have to consider everyday market value so that my 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 banking business is having sufficient liquidity assets for maintaining any problem and any circulation issue. I think this is what they need to maintain. The percentage of SLR is changed by Reserve Bank of India from time to time, considering the general economic condition. This is in addition to the cash reserve ratio. So you are looking at cash reserve ratio and also SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. This is in addition to cash reserve ratio balance which a scheduled bank is required to maintain under section 42 of the Reserve Bank of India. Okay, then restrictions of acquisition of shares in other company. A banking company cannot form any subsidiary except for one of the more following purposes. A banking company cannot form any subsidiary except for one or more of the following purpose. You can't have any subsidiary. The undertaking of any business permissible for banking company to undertake, carrying on business of banking exclusive outside India with previous permission in writing from Reserve Bank of India, the undertaking of such other business considered to be conducive to the spread of banking in India or to be otherwise useful or necessary in the public interest which Reserve Bank of India may permit with the approval of the central government. That means you can acquire the shares in other companies only which is when it is in when it is benefiting the customers or banks. Okay, and similarly you can, if you want, you can carry on your activities in places where outside India, and that permission you need to get from the Reserve Bank of India. Other than formation of such subsidiary companies, as mentioned above, a banking company cannot hold shares in any company either as a pledge, mortgage, or absolute owner of an amount not exceeding 30% of the paid up share capital of that company, or 30% of in own paid share capital in reserves, whichever is less. I think these are theoretical part. No need to worry about it. Simple words. A company here. This is one first point is a bank company cannot form any subsidiary company. This we have learned already. And then similarly, other than formation of such subsidiary companies, as mentioned above, a banking company cannot hold shares in any company either as pledge or mortgage. Okay. So this is about the equation of shares. Next, restriction of loans and advances. I think this is simple. No need to worry much about it. This you can eliminate, you can avoid it. Under section, briefly I'll read out. Under section 20 of the Banking Regulation Act, a bank company shall not grant any loans or advances on the security of its own shares. Further, it cannot enter into any commitment for granting any loan advance to on behalf of any of its director, any firm in which any of its directors is interested as a partner, manager, employer, or guarantor, any company other than subsidiary of the banking company, or a company which is entitled dispense with the use of the word limited in its name under Companies Act, or government company of which any of the directors of bank company is director, manager, employee. Simple words. Restriction. A banking company shall not grant any loans or advances where one of its directors is a employee or a manager or a guarantor, or and in a company where he is also working as a director. And you also can't give sanction loans to any of its directors. Any individual in respect of whom any of its directors is a partner or a guarantor. Even an individual also you can't give where the director is a partner or a guarantor. In such case, you cannot give loans, because once if you give the loans, recovery of chance is very less. That is why they put some restrictions on that. Prohibition of charge and unpaid capital and floating charge on assets. Under section 14 of the Banking Regulation Act, no banking company shall create any charge. Any charge means right on the assets on any unpaid capital of the company. No banking company shall create any charge upon any unpaid capital of the company, and any charge is created shall be invalid. That means unpaid capital. What is unpaid called up capital? So 10 rupees is the nominal value, 8 rupees is the called up, and unpaid is how much? 2 rupees. So in any charge is created shall be invalid. You cannot have any charge on uncalled capital. A banking company also cannot create a floating charge on the undertaking of any property of the company or any part thereof unless the creation of such floating charge is certified by Reserve Bank of India. We've seen what is floating charge. Charge on all assets on any property of the banking company unless a permission from Reserve Bank of India. Any charge created without obtaining the certificate from RBI as above shall be invalid. So 2 points you should remember. 2 points you should remember. Point number 1 is that they cannot have any charge on unpaid capital of the company. They also cannot have any charge on floating charge on the undertaking or any property of the company. Now accounts. At the end of the year or at the expiration of 12 months ending on such date as central government may specify in this regard, every banking company incorporated in India in respect of business transferred by transact by it, and every banking company incorporated outside India in respect of business transacted by its branches in India shall prepare with the reference to that year period balance sheet form A, P&L account form B. This as on the last working day of that year or the period in the form set out in the third schedule of the Banking Regulation Act. And the balance sheet of P&L account must be signed by the manager or principal officer and by at least 3 directors or all directors if there are not more than 3 directors in case of banking company incorporated in India. So here the balance sheet of P&L account must be signed by the manager or principal officer and by at least 3 directors or all directors if there are not more than 3 directors in the case of banking company incorporated India is on financial statement. In case of bank company incorporated outside India, the statement of account must be signed by the manager or agent of the principal office of the company in India. In addition to the above, Reserve Bank of India has also issued master circular on disclosure to be made in the financial statements of these companies. I think This is all theory part. Why, sir? This theory part, whether it comes in the examination is immaterial. Just to have an overall picture, I thought of, even though this theory, generally theory means listening will be boring, but maybe how this is important from the examination point of view, don't look into it. But when situation comes, then I'll come back to this where it is having significance, that we discuss the outcome of this chapter. We have seen the definition of the banking, and just we had a bit of discussion on capital reserve ratio, and then we also had some discussion about statutory liquidity ratio, excuse me, liquidity norms. We had discussed on that, and then we also discussed about reserve fund under section 17. 25% of the current year profit is to be transferred. So we discussed about main points from the examination point of view. Dividend, when situation comes, we discuss. And point number 2, reserve fund under section 17, every year current year profit is to be transferred to reserve fund. And then just we had brief discussion on cash reserve ratio. Then we also had brief discussion on statutory liquidity ratio also we have learned. It is form called as SLR. When problem comes, we discuss. So 4 points we have important. What is that? As a section 17, statutory reserve 20% of the current year profit, and then cash reserve ratio we have discussed, statutory liquid ratio we discussed, and declaration of dividend. These 4 points, whenever we come across any problem, we discuss. So with this, let me conclude for the day. So good luck. God bless you all. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you.